Hi guys, today I wanted to talk about spell cards, or tactics as they're called in my game. I've been needing to make more of them because I mostly focused on the monsters for the first few cards I designed, so I thought I'd make a video talking about my process for designing non-creature cards for a TCG. I'll put up a speed art of one of the first tactic cards I made, and we'll get started. Okay, first I want to explain what I mean by spell cards. In trading card games, spells is kind of just a general name for cards that have a one-time effect and then go to the discard pile, rather than staying on the battlefield like creatures. These cards often tend to take a backseat to creature cards because they're not directly involved in combat, and they're usually not the most exciting, flashy designs of a card game. But they're still really important for creating a balanced game environment because they usually allow players to interact with their opponents to a greater extent, and also to alter the course of the game outside of the board state, with things like card draw and card selection. There are a couple key roles to fill when designing spell cards that you almost have to include in your game. I mean, there's a reason why almost every TCG has some form of a card draw spell. I think one of the most important things to keep in mind is to find ways to make these essential cards in a way that's unique to your game. For example, the card I'm designing right now is called Combat Research. It's a tactic card that allows you to draw 2 new tactics when you play it. This fills the role of card draw in my game, but it also connects to one of the main features of GoblinBlitz that makes it unique, which is the fact that you have 2 separate decks to draw from. Card draw is just one of the many roles that spell cards have to fill in a TCG. Got a couple more sketches here of tactics that I've been working on. This one will probably be like some sort of way to move your opponent's monsters back, like get them out of the way of your attacks, or like move them into a better spot for your monsters to attack them. This one will probably be some sort of like attack card, like a way of dealing damage to your opponent's monsters. And this one, which is already finished and I showed you guys in the last video, I think this one will be another form of attack cards. You're going to need like multiple versions of like ways to deal damage to opposing monsters. That's like one of the most important categories. But like you can have different versions that have like slightly different like costs and different advantages that they can give in addition to dealing damage. One thing I'm doing to kind of differentiate between tactic and monster cards is that I'm making the spell cards in this horizontal format and doing the art in full colored pencil instead of marker. I wanted there to be a visual difference between the 2 card types, so that when you're looking through your hand, it's easier to tell which cards are which. Aside from the ones I just showed you, I've got a couple more ideas for tactic cards in a playtest deck that I'm working on, but those aren't really close to being finished. My goal is to have 2 playtest decks ready in maybe a couple weeks so that I can start testing out the game, which means I'm going to need to come up with a lot more ideas for tactics. The main categories I'm focusing on for now are card draw and removal for opposing monsters, because I feel like those are the most essential for gameplay. Aside from those, I'll probably add a couple other ones like protection spells, or maybe one that boosts your monster's attack. The whole thing is very much still a work in progress. Here's the finished artwork for the Combat Research card, and for all the tactics cards that I'm going to be making, I still want to have them kind of tie into the story that I've planned for my game, because even if they don't like include any major story events in the artwork, I think it's still a great opportunity to kind of like ground the world that you're trying to create. So we've got a lot of small details here, like the battered old parchment map, the wooden table, and the gold coins that kind of help indicate like the technology of this world and like the resources that the goblins have available to them. Here's the finished card. I'm still working on the card template, but I feel like the color scheme works with the rest of the card. I think it'll be pretty playable since it draws 2 cards for only 2 resources, which is a pretty good rate. Tactics-focused decks are definitely going to want it, because it kind of leads towards a more controlling game plan with a lot of removal, since if you're focusing more on your tactics deck, you probably won't have as much room for powerful monsters in the early game. I feel like that trade-off of losing early game aggression in exchange for having more control over the game in the long term will make for a pretty cool strategy that I'm excited to test out. That's about it for today, but let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see me make a video on next.